having a wonderful discussion with the candidates so that we'll be able to see and understand more about their belief and their thinking and how they will be able, how their beliefs will be able to help us, people with disabilities. Again, we want to thank you all for coming. And
at this time, we're going to have a welcoming remark from the Senior Executive Director of the Virgin Island University Center for Excellence in Developmental Disability. That's a mouthful. Dr. Yegan Hopkins.
Good morning, and welcome. I usually come forward and talk a little bit about VIUCEDD because I really want you to know what VIUCEDD is all about. VIUCEDD is a program funded by the federal government, and its main objective is to do everything possible to enhance the life of people with disabilities in this territory so they can live happily, productively, and very independent. So what do we do in order to achieve this goal? We do a lot of things. One of the things is we do workshops all over the territory in order to create awareness among the people in the territory, policymakers, private owners, so they know that people with disabilities have a right and also they are able and willing to contribute to the economy of the territory. The other thing that we do is we want to train as many people as possible in any field, because when there is shortage of professionals, the people who get the shorter end of the stick are people with disabilities. But if there are enough teachers, enough counselors, enough doctors, enough nurses, people with disabilities will get their fair share. So also, tied to this, our objective is to build the capacity of the university. So we collaborate with the different divisions and schools to design programs. We were able to implement in collaboration with the School of Education what we call the Inclusive Early Childhood Education Program. This is a certificate that leads to an associate, that leads to a baccalaureate degree. And this program is the first of its kind in the nation. We threw the idea there is a need for special education teachers and the need for regular education teachers. We do believe that if you are a good teacher, you can teach children with disabilities and without in the same classrooms. So we called that new program Inclusive Early Childhood Education. We also, when we did the research and talked with parents and teachers and principals, we found out that most of our psychologists, counselors, were people who came from away and sometimes do not understand the culture and the language of the children. So we said, we are a young university, but on the cutting edge university, why can't we train our own? So we came up with a proposal to train school psychologists at the EDS degree. For those of you who are not familiar with the EDS, it's a degree between the master's degree and the PhD. And we were able to graduate about 15 individuals who were hired by the Department of Education. And since these people were hired, the Department of Education is on track, testing, evaluating, and programming for children with disabilities in the territory. So this is one of the things that we do. The third thing that I want to talk to the public about is the use of assistive technology. Assistive technology could simply be defined as a device or a service that would help people with disabilities to do things otherwise they cannot do. So when we start talking to people with disabilities about assistive technology, they say, wow, I need this, but I can't afford it. So we went back to the drawing table and we wrote a grant and we got about $750,000. We got that money, we created an endowment. Now we give loans to people with disabilities at a very low interest rate. We collaborated with Banco Popular, so Banco Popular would give you the loan at 8%. We buy down the 4%, so people with disabilities would be able to get and buy the assistive technology that they need at 4% interest rate. So far, I think we have given to about 100 individuals, and the loan goes from about $300 to about $15,000. The $15,000 would be given if you want to build a ramp and make your house accessible, or if you want to buy a car and make that car accessible. These are some of the things that we do. Today's program started first as a breakfast morning with policymakers. So we were bringing policymakers and the disability community face-to-face together, and we have a discussion. But later on, we became a little bit smarter and said, hey, why don't we do that and invite those who are sitting and aspiring politicians and sit face-to-face with them and make them understand the need of people with disabilities, and if possible, make them promise something. And while they promise something, we tape them, we videotape them, and we hold that. And if you are elected, we go after them. That's the reason behind this program. So I want to welcome you, and I want to make it clear that all the 5 individuals who are running for the office of the delegate were invited. And we got 3 individuals who said that they would come today, but we have 2, Mr. Mosler and Mr. Mu'min. Me and you have to have a discussion on that one. The origin of the language, because we just found that both of us are from Africa originally, and he's from Tunisia, and originally, so the name of the word, so I will remain corrected for today. Yeah. So I want to welcome them, and that we're going to have a very nice discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Haptis. Let me do a little demonstration here. That's my hearing aid that allows me to do something I don't normally am not able to do without the hearing aid. These things cost about $3,500, so they can get to be real expensive. I don't want to drop my hearing aid. Assistive technology at work. We're going to hear now from our interim provost, Dr. Camille McHale. If you would, please. Good morning.
Good morning, all. Welcome to the University of the Virgin Islands, and I bring apologies for Dr. Hall, who's actually out of the territory today. So today I'm representing both, but don't worry, I won't speak as long as we both would have spoken. I'm trying to get you ahead. So it's really a pleasure to be here today, and I'm pleased that the Virgin Islands University Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities is hosting this forum. The issues that are addressed through this wonderful center under Dr. Haptis' leadership should be of concern to all Virgin Islanders. We cannot ignore a significant and important part of our population. These voices count. But these voices should be all our voices. Thus, through this forum, I hope that we uncover some of the difficulties that many disabled persons face in the community with regards to access. Access to buildings, access to education, access to technology, access to services. When few are denied access, we all are denied access to all that those few or those many bring to any discussion we have, any project we have, any event we have. So on behalf of President Hall, who, as I said, is out of the territory, I welcome you to the University of the Virgin Islands. We at the university are pleased with the progress that we have made toward being more accessible. Some of the progress you can see our new walkways, you can see our elevators, even though I think some are taking the elevators when they really should run up those steps, but that's that's for another forum, the one on healthy living. But then we also have a lot going on behind the scenes. We have, with regard to services, VIUCEDD is one of those things. I mean, it's not as behind the scenes as others, but in terms of bringing issues of those with disabilities to the forefront. We also have services for our students, and we're really at the university trying to educate faculty members more about how to provide more services and more accommodations for students who might have disabilities in their classroom. So we really are proud of the strides that we've made. We are not quite where we need to be, but we are getting there. And so this forum, I hope, will actually bring to our, bring out to us also some of the things that we should be looking at. So again, it's my pleasure to welcome you all here today at this forum. I look forward to a healthy debate, and I look forward to hearing some innovative ideas coming from the candidates, as well as you know, from your voices in the audience, which I think is where we have all the ideas. We just need to get them out. So welcome and have a great forum.
Thank you, Dr. McHale. Forgot to mention, my cell phone just started buzzing. I turned it down, so turn yours off or put them on vibrate so they won't interrupt anything, if you would. Let me take a minute to explain how the process is going to work, then I'll turn it over to our moderator. A couple of weeks ago, we met with members of the DD community to formulate a question to be asked of the candidates. We were on St. Croix with a group of about 8 or 9, and on St.Thomas by video, going back and forth, discussing issues that are pertinent to the members of the DD community, and formulating questions to be asked of the candidates for Congress this morning, and the delegates for the senatorial candidates for this afternoon. We have a box that we prepared with the numbers of questions. There are about 22 questions that we formulated. We have a box with the numbers corresponding to the question. The candidates are going to pull the numbers out. We're going to ask a member in the audience, they've been previously assigned, to read the question that the candidate pulled. So this is all by random process. So that the whole process is a random one. And then Attorney Jennings, who is the managing attorney for the Disability Rights Center. He's also a member of our Assistive Technology Foundation. He's going to moderate, make sure that things flow smoothly. So that's the process. So I'm going to turn it over to Attorney Jennings right now, and we're going to move the agenda forward.
Good morning, all. And for the candidates, what we'll do is, again, ask you to pull a question, and then you're allowed 3 minutes to address the question. There's only 2 candidates here so far, so you may get a little bit longer through the middle of the question. And due to the fact that I don't have a coin to flip, we'll let the first candidate that first showed up pull the first question. So if you will. Okay. No, why don't we do this? I forgot that part.
You were talking about 8%. I can get that down to 6%.
Okay. Use He's on the money. He's early in the morning.
2% for the borrow.
And which is true. Why don't we allow each candidate to step up and give a brief presentation of your background and issues that you want to address. So Mr. Moser, go first, and how do you pronounce your name again, Mr. Mamoon? Okay.
Okay. Thank you. I carefully prepared a 2-minute address so I wouldn't go over my time. So let me read through that, try and look up like I'm using a teleprompter. Okay. My name is Warren, and I was instructed to give qualifications and how to do the whole thing. So, my name is Warren Mosler. My qualifications include 40 years in financial markets. I have a degree in economics. I began in banking, and in 1976, I went to Wall Street as vice president of Bankers Trust. 30 years ago, I founded my own investment company, which continues to this day. 10 years ago, I moved my business to the Virgin Islands, and it's been my home ever since. I specialize in economic analysis, and I've met with congressmen, with the Federal Reserve, the U.S. Treasury, and many others seeking my views on economic policy. I've written extensively in the Huffington Post on how the likes of Paul Ryan and the Tea Party's agenda would keep our economy weak, keep our unemployment high, which is exactly what's been happening. I also watch our own Virgin Islands economy very closely, and I offer my proposals to address our needs. You may have seen my proposals. They include using Hovensa's generators for electricity for all of St. Croix, saving us some $50 million a year in fuel costs, which would be enough to completely reverse the last hike in the LEOC. I've discovered how we qualify for an additional hundreds of millions of dollars of federal funding and federal contracts to secure a lot more healthcare funding, as well as thousands of new federal jobs. In 2006, before the Obama-McCain election, I discovered the door was wide open for us to vote for President of the United States through absentee ballot. And as your delegate, I'll work to get that job done as well. We could have voted in the last 2 elections. Today, it's critical to send an independent to Congress. The problem is Democrats and Republicans have shut each other out. It didn't always used to be like that, but that's the way it is today. Today, only an independent can be taken seriously by either party in Congress without fear of party retribution. And last summer we saw that retribution when a long-term Republican lost his job because one time, 10 years ago, he spoke to a Democrat. So please take a close look at my qualifications, experience, my accomplishments, and my history of getting things done, and my proposals that I have already set in motion. For me, it's not about getting the job, it's about getting the job done. I'm Warren Mosler, independent candidate for delegate to Congress, the right choice for a new voice. Number 5 on the ballot, and I'm asking for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moser.
Mr. Mosler's, he has an in-depth history and qualifications that I would say are phenomenally impressive. But, if I may toot my own little horn, in my work experience, I've been a property manager for a portfolio of buildings. For over a decade of experience in that particular field, where I've had to take care of the needs of more than, I'd say, 15,000 people, which ranged anywhere from security to maintenance to budgeting and forecasting, just a whole slew, a barrage of responsibilities that come to taking care of a community. That's really my notable claim to fame in my professional career. I have a bachelor's degree in media and communications, so I did my duty when it came to fulfilling my needs to go to school. But in regards to addressing the cornerstone, one of the pivotal marks of my campaign is my focus on regenerative medicine. Okay, it's an initiative that when it comes to federal funding, there are tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars slated for regenerative medicine, allocated by the National Institute of Health, now allocated by the Department of Defense, that is geared toward research and development for cures for disease, anything from autoimmune disorders, neurological disorders, diabetes, heart, diseases of the cardiovascular system, anything that has to do primarily with health. There is a plethora of money set aside to perform this research and development that could pretty much put the lid closed on Pandora's box when it comes to disease. People that suffer from paralysis even. I mean, there's a number of biotech companies that are researching how to restore people's ability to become mobile again. And there are a variety of centers around the globe, hubs, biomedical hubs, that are dumping millions and millions and millions of dollars. It's really a race to compete with this technology, to bring cures from the clinic to the bench. And I'd like to see the Virgin Islands become a biomedical hub, within this region. Puerto Rico is already has been aggressively pursuing a program of nanotechnology. And I think, if we walk in parallel lines with Puerto Rico in collaboration with one another, the possibilities are endless. Now, this is not going to happen in one term or two terms, and I'm not a 2 or 3 term career politician. I don't believe in career politics. It's going to be a project that'll take at least 10 years, and maybe by the time 2020 rolls around, we'll have people in this very room that'll have their quality of life completely restored. And that's pretty much my vision in as far as relaying to you what's primarily important from my platform to you. Okay, thank you very much for your time. Consider me number 1 as your delegate to Congress. I'd like to see this happen for not just the disabled, but for people with any type of disease, chronic illnesses, terminal illnesses, and of course disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Willett. Just for the information, Ms. Picard is here. I want to give you advice that you will give a 3-minute talk, introducing yourself, and then we would go into the exchange where questions will be asked of you. So again, Ms. Norma Picard Samuel.
With these types of challenges that most of you face on a daily basis, and I know it's not easy. From the time my husband retired from the Navy and we moved back home, I got involved with WorkAble, and I sat on the board of WorkAble and involved with, and I see the director sitting here. It's a big challenge, and working in the private industry, you try to give opportunities and look at people with disabilities, whatever it is, and try to place them in a position that they can function and they're not dependent. I don't think that a lot of the community really realize in trying to place people with disability that sometimes that they can do a lot of the jobs much better than able people, and the dedication that they have towards their position. So I have been very well educated on the challenges, some of the opportunity, which I personally believe are not many in our community, and it's, I feel, because of the lack of education. Lack of education in government agencies and in the business community. And that would be one of the things that would be top on my agenda. The last project that I worked on was the Pathway project, a database for the entire territory that mapped our community and the challenges for people with disabilities to maneuver around. Not only for visitors to the territory, but people in wheelchairs and that have problems moving around. And we mapped the entire territory and identify a lot of the problem areas, both St. Thomas, St. Croix, and St. John, from one end of the island to the other. So, you know, and things that some of us take for granted on a daily basis becomes a really large obstacle for people with disabilities. And so I am very prepared, being familiar with a lot of the challenges and opening opportunities for people with disability to find employment, healthcare, whatever it is. I stand ready, willing, and able with my personal experiences in the field. And I thank you for your attention, and I'm ready for any questions or exchanges.
Thank you. At this time, again, going in the order that they appeared, I would ask the box holder, the magic numbers, to address Mr. Mosler, pull a question, pull a number. Okay, got it?
Thank you. Are you in favor of legislation that will target entry-level jobs requiring a certain number of those entry-level jobs?
That they be retained?
That they be retained in people with disabilities? If yes, why? And if no, why not?
Did you understand the question? Okay, then.
How much time do I have?
You have 3 minutes.
Okay. It's my favorite subject. The short answer is I'm in favor of it for government employment, 100%, which is a large part of our employment in the territory, but not for private sector employment. But let me tell you what else I am in favor of, and that I'm supporting since I wrote the definitive paper on this, published in the Post-Keynesian Journal of Economics in 1998, and that is, my proposal is for the federal government to offer a job that pays $10 an hour plus health care to anyone willing and able to work. No exceptions. That would include disabled. That is, offer a job to anyone willing and able to work. No exceptions. The rest of the paper described why this would be so good for the country. It was picked up by the labor ministry of Argentina, of all places. A friend of mine, Daniel Kozar, who studied the paper. And in 2001, he implemented it in Argentina. The country of 30 million people. He had this program called the Jefes program. They got 2 million people into this program who had never worked before. They were disadvantaged people, they were handicapped, they were middle-aged people, people who had never worked in the private sector. 2 million were in this program. And within 2 years, 1 million people were hired away from this program by the private sector. They hired these people. Now, why is that? Okay, and Argentina became the strongest economy in the world for doing this. The reason is the private sector doesn't like to hire people who are not already working. The private sector wants to see that you can come to work on time, that you can clean, that you don't get into fights, that you're capable. Then they hire you. So we need this federal transition job, is what I call it. Shortly after that, the government of India picked it up. It's called the Rural Poor Program. It was promoted by the Levy Institute in New York. They got it from my same paper. I knew the people there personally. They have 60 million people in that program. 60 million jobs were created. And the same thing's happening. They hire anybody who's willing and able to work. And then once the private sector can see those people can work and do a good job, they immediately hire them. That's immediately. It takes a year. It takes a little time. They have to watch how you do. But that's okay. And today, India has been one of the strongest economies in the world. Okay. So to answer your question, the government should do that. The government has no problem doing that. But we need a transition job like I proposed so that the private sector can then hire the disadvantaged of all kinds and the unemployed out of this pool of there's different words for it. It's called the job guarantee, the employer of last resort, and a lot of words for this program, but out of this program.
Warning.
Okay. Now, let me just say, I've talked to members of Congress, senators, and representatives. They all like this. They favor the idea. It costs the government very little money when you add it up. It doesn't even hardly show up in the budget. And it's just a question of getting a consensus together. And it's bipartisan. I'm an independent. I've talked to Republicans and Democrats. The Republicans like it because they like to see people work. And the Democrats like it because they like full employment. So everybody likes it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Vermillion. Number 20. Good morning. Ms. Samuel?
Yes.
Okay.
At the recent National President Forum on Disability Issues, it was pointed out that the insurance company does not cover autism. In the Virgin Islands, as on the mainland, there are individuals who can't get insurance because of a diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. In your position as a delegate to Congress, how would you help ensure that the health care needs of persons with disabilities and their parents are met?
That question was personally meant for me. And there's a specific reason to that. My son is about 3 years old. My son is about 3 years old, and about 6 months ago he was diagnosed on the spectrum of autism, which was it was pretty crushing. You know, when you get news like that, it transforms your life. You know, I have no problem bringing this up publicly, you know, because we all, to a greater or lesser extent, are faced with someone in our lives that has a condition or a disorder, be it physical or mental. And it's personal for me, you know, on a very direct level. It's personal for me that if I go to Washington, addressing the issue of why the disabled, not handicapped, the disabled are not getting their just due. You know, it's a serious problem for me, and I'm going to fight it tooth and nail. You know, for my son and for the rest of us. We're all interconnected, and we all have to take care of one another. That's part of being in a society. You know, that's the key ingredient to progressing sociologically, by caring for one another. Personally, I love the idea of the Affordable Care Act. You know, President Obama's first initial steps toward universal health care were genuine in its foundation, but the insurance companies are profiteering giants. All they care about is their bottom line in the end, and I think we'll soon see that morph over time. It's inevitable that universal health care, which is a Green Party position, my party's position, come into effect at some point in time within our lifetime. Beginning back to the question in regards to becoming an advocate for persons that have disabilities, for my son, even for my brother who was hit by a drunk driver when he was an infant. He is disabled permanently, neurological damage, from son of a judge, as a matter of fact. And guy only got 6 months in jail because he's connected. So on many levels for me, it's completely and totally personal to fight for your rights and to make sure that anyone with a disability is completely and totally 100% insured. Thank you for your time and attention.
Ms. Samuel.
Number 18.
Ms. Brown.
Good afternoon. What proactive steps will you take as a legislature to get more people with disabilities to become employed?
Thank you for the question. First and foremost, I must say, I don't believe in discrimination of any type. And I think that both business and government need to understand that people with disabilities can do a lot of the jobs that we have available just as good as any one of us, okay? So I am not into one set of rules for private sector and one set of rules for government. I think that people with disabilities should be protected just like anyone else because they are capable, willing, and ready to take employment. They show up. Some people, a lot of people with challenges and with disabilities are more loyal and more dependable than other individuals. So I will work on making sure, and I think a lot has to do with education, and that is what I have found over the years. People make a lot of assumptions because you have a challenge or something that you're not going to come to work and you're going to have issues getting to your jobs. But we all have different issues. We just deal with them differently. If you can't drive, you're going to make sure that you have reliable transportation to get to your jobs. So I think it's the mindset of individuals that has to change, and understanding that people with challenges and disabilities are no different than any one of us. And most times they're more loyal and productive than other individuals because other individuals feel they have this mindset that, oh, I can walk out and I can get employment elsewhere, where the persons with disabilities, because of their challenges and because of how hard it is to even get that employment,